What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants, powered by BetUS. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined with no co-host, Alex Wilson. He's a little sick, guys, a little bit under the weather, but he should be rejoining us tomorrow, so stay tuned to that. But today, want to dive into Devin Singletary. It's motor time. Yeah, Motor Singletary has been playing some really good football through the first 2 weeks of the season. Do the Giants even miss Saquon Barkley at this point? Well, Eagles fans would like you to believe that they do, but Giants fans, I don't think many of us are really missing the production so far. I mean, Singletary has rushed for 193 yards or so on the ground so far this season. 132 yards on the season on just 26 carries, though, 5.1 yards per attempt. Obviously scored a touchdown last week, and he's been a tackle-breaking machine. So I kind of want to just dive into this, discuss Devin Singletary, the way that he has performed, how the offensive line has looked, what this running back by committee could look like long term. And then, we'll finish it off with the comparison between Devin Singletary and Saquon Barkley so far through the first 2 weeks of the season. Now, granted, it's only been 2 weeks. The Giants haven't won a game yet. So, even if Devin Singletary is playing great, everybody needs to be better. The Giants can't keep stacking up losses. They got to get a win this weekend against the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Browns have a very good defense, but in particular, they have a very good pass defense. So it actually could be a matchup where Devin Singletary makes the difference. And I'm hoping that that's the case because oh my God, please, can the Giants win a game? I really want to see this Giants team get themselves in the win column this upcoming weekend versus Cleveland. For what it's worth, guys, I do think this is a winnable game, but I think it's going to be a tough, ugly, low-scoring game. And more on that in a little bit, but let's go ahead, dive into Devin Singletary. Like I said, 132 rushing yards and 1 touchdown on just 26 carries. That's a really efficient mark. And what's been so exciting about Singletary is his tackle-breaking ability has been wildly impressive. He forced 10 missed tackles in Week 2 versus the Washington Commanders. Now, we gave the Giants defense a lot of crap for poor tackling and really poor run defense. But honestly, the Commanders defense was really bad in both of those regards as well. 10 forced missed tackles from Devin Singletary. He had an average of 3.5 yards after contact. He was constantly making plays and moving the sticks along with Malik Nabers. The Giants offense looked a lot better in Week 2 than it did in Week 1. A lot of that was attributed to Nabers, and he got the lion's share of the credit, as he should. 10 catches for 127 yards and a touchdown. He really was the superstar for the Giants in Week 2. But the unsung hero of that game, or would have been the hero had the Giants actually won the damn game, would have been Devin Singletary. Because a lot of those plays to Nabers, the Giants were facing some stacked boxes because Singletary was running the ball so well. And that opened things up on the outside for Malik Nabers to get open against man coverage. If you didn't see my breakdown on Nabers, go check that out. It's on the channel. Posted that a couple days ago. So as we look ahead to this Cleveland game, I'm feeling good, and I want to take a quick break to shout out our sponsor, which is BetUS, and take a look at the odds on this upcoming game on Sunday. Now, if you're looking at it from a betting perspective, this Giants game feels like it's pretty easy to bet on just because you have the Giants ranked all the way down there at 12 points per game, and then you have Cleveland over at 17.5 points per game. Neither one of these teams has gone over 20 points in either of their games so far this year. And if you're looking at it, the over-under is only 38.5 points. I am going to take the under on that. I don't think these teams are going to put up a lot of points. I'm going to throw another $10 on there this week. At minus 110, this feels like really good value. So I'm going to go ahead and place that bet. Make sure, guys, you check out the links down below for BetUS. Get your 125% deposit match and all the other bonuses that we're offering through our sponsorship with BetUS. But right back to Devin Singletary, guys. Let's go ahead and discuss him a little bit further. Like I said, 10 missed tackles forced last year. So far this season, he's forced 12 total missed tackles. And this is a really exciting statistic. He leads all qualified NFL running backs with a 46.2% avoided tackle rate, meaning he is forcing a missed tackle 46% of the times that he has a tackle attempted against him, which is almost half of the time. So you can kind of bet that 1 in every 2 to 3 plays, Singletary's forcing a missed tackle, which is an extremely impressive rate. Now, here's the kicker, and this is where we're going to kind of transition into a little bit of Saquon Barkley discussion, because, listen, guys, when the Giants let Saquon Barkley walk in free agency, they got a lot of crap. it was a very controversial decision. He's been the face of the franchise for several years, better part of the last decade, right? And when he left, they got a lot of criticism thrown their way. But so far through 2 weeks, when you look at the value of the two contracts that were signed, Barkley's with Philadelphia and Singletary's with the Giants, and then you look at the advanced analytics so far through these 2 weeks, the Giants seem to be getting a much better deal. Because like I said, Singletary has forced the most missed tackles per touch. Barkley, meanwhile, has forced the least missed tackles per touch. And I know everybody's going to point to that Saquon Barkley drop on, I think that was Monday Night Football against the Atlanta Falcons, had an opportunity to seal the game. To be honest, that's not the first time we've seen Saquon Barkley drop a game-winning pass. He did it last year for the Giants versus the Rams. Wasn't the best throw, but one he should have caught. We've seen this happen a couple times. So far, though, Singletary has been the more effective runner, has been the bigger tackle breaker, and he's coming in at a fraction of the cost, which is really what I wanted to make the point of this episode. The Giants signed Singletary to a 3-year, $16.5 million deal with only $9.5 million guaranteed. So they're not really paying him a whole ton. When you're looking at it from that perspective and you compare that to Saquon Barkley, rather, I mean, $5.5 million per season for Singletary versus what Saquon Barkley's making, $37.7 million across 3 years with $26 million guaranteed. So that is, first of all, a ton of money in average annual salary, and also a ton of money in guarantees. The Giants, listen, obviously wanted to keep Saquon Barkley, but at that level of guaranteed money for a player with all of those injuries that he's had in the past, plus in addition, guys, this is a team that is rebuilding the New York Giants. They're not necessarily one piece away from a contention. They're not necessarily a couple pieces away from playoff contention. This isn't the best roster in the NFL. The Eagles, meanwhile, did have a very talented roster. They were, at least in their own viewpoint from their front office, a couple pieces away. So Saquon Barkley makes sense for them. He just didn't make sense for the Giants to give $26 million guaranteed when they can get similar play and effectiveness out of a much cheaper back in Devin Singletary. And so far, he's really delivered. The fact that the Giants have him under contract for the next 3 years is exciting, because if this is just the first 2 weeks and this is just a taste of what's to come with Singletary, I do think that we are going to have one of the better value contracts at the running back position in the NFL. So I've been a big fan of Singletary. What are you guys thinking? I think that he's looked really solid as a rusher, especially between the tackles. And that kind of leads me to my next closing points here. The offensive line has looked vastly improved so far this season, right? I dove into it in yesterday's episode. We kind of discussed how they looked in pass protection, but I personally have thought that the Giants offensive line has looked pretty good from a run blocking perspective as well. I think that there's been a lot of holes and opportunities for Devin Singletary to get open up the middle in some of these rushing lanes, and there's been some good second level blocks for him as well. The Giants have done a really good job creating space for Singletary. So I'm impressed with this offensive line. And maybe that's something that you could argue here is Saquon Barkley behind this version of the Giants offensive line would have been much better than Saquon Barkley behind every previous iteration of the Giants offensive line that he actually did play against. I do believe that to be true. But at the same time, the Giants probably can't afford to have this offensive line if they sign Saquon Barkley. You're talking about a massive difference in contractual value between Singletary at $5.5 million, and then you have Saquon at over $12 million. That's $7 million right there. Who did that pay for? Jermaine Illuminor. If you ask me personally, I'd rather have Jermaine Illuminor, stability at right tackle, plus Singletary, down-to-down production from running back, over Saquon Barkley, flashy, high-end luxury running back play. That's me personally. I know many of you might disagree, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it below. But I think when you look at the value of the Giants' 2 contracts signed at that price point compared to the Eagles' 1 contract signed at that price point, I am leaning towards the Giants' strategy here. Cheaper at running back, more expensive on the offensive line. Giants needed to fix this offensive line. It didn't happen for them overnight. It took many years, but it's finally here. It looks decent through 2 weeks. Let's hope that it stays that way. And let's hope that no injuries strike to either the offensive line or the running back positions. But if injuries do strike to the running back position, and even if they don't, I am interested to see what the roles look like for Eric Gray and Tyrone Tracy Jr. going forward. Those are 2 running backs that we talked a lot about throughout the offseason. Eric Gray looked phenomenal in the preseason at times. So did Tyrone Tracy. Tyrone Tracy looked spectacular at times during training camp. However, we haven't really seen either of those two guys get a whole lot of touches. I don't think Gray had a touch in week 2. I think Tyrone Tracy had one handoff for 2 yards. They haven't really made much of an impact or played much of a role in the offense. Why is that? Well, I think there's 2 reasons why. First of all, Singletary is playing great football. Arguably the best 2-game stretch of his career, maybe not, but it's up there. He's playing some really good football. The second reason being the Giants don't have a need for a committee right now with that running back playing well, and they also can't afford to put in an inexperienced player. They're 0-2. They're losing. They can't take risks right now because when they do, well, they deal with some turnovers. And unfortunately, Singletary was responsible for one of those in week 2. He needs to be cleaner with the football and make sure that he doesn't fumble going forward. Absolutely true. But when you're looking at it from that perspective, the Giants need a running back who's going to read the holes, hit the holes, fall forward, gain yards. They don't necessarily need to be developing a young running back on the field right now who might be missing some of those holes and not making the right plays. That's going to lead to backed up yardage, trickier plays on third downs, third and longs. The Giants really just don't need to put themselves in compromising positions right now because they're already in a compromised position at 0-2. So I do think going forward, you're going to continue to see heavy dosages of Devin Singletary. But as the season goes on, and if the Giants do continue to lose, let's say we've got 2 wins by the time week 10 rolls around, well, then I think you're going to start seeing some more Tyrone Tracy and Eric Gray, because that's when you need to evaluate the young talent on your roster and start developing those guys with live game reps. However, they're also paying Devin Singletary $5.5 million per season with $9.5 million guaranteed, so he's going to play a lot all the way through week 17 or 18, whatever, all the way through the season. That much you can almost guarantee. But I don't have any complaints about that. I think Singletary's looked awesome. I'm excited to see some of these younger guys potentially get more reps down the stretch of the season, but right now, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't force the Giants to run a running back by committee if their lead running back is getting the job done. Just make sure you don't fumble anymore, Devin. But yeah, it's motor time. I'm excited. I like what the Giants have at running back. I think it's interesting to compare and contrast what they lost at running back and what they gained at running back, plus on the offensive line. I think that is the best kind of analogy here. $5.5 million plus $7 million for Illuminor versus $12 million for Barkley. Give me the former over the latter. That's my take on it. Let me know yours down below in the comment section. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Fireside Giants, powered by BetUS, the sports book with the fastest payouts in the industry. Without further ado, catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.